Welcome to Franchise Empires, where aspiring entrepreneurs learn exactly what it takes to become a successful franchise owner, from one location to 10 and beyond. I'm the Wolf of Franchises. Hey everyone, it's the Wolf. Today in the show we have Bill Noble. Bill was on the C-suite track to become an executive of a massive company when he eventually decided to go all in on franchises. Today, he owns 85 plus Pearle Vision locations and has been super intelligent with using his military background and leadership experience to build his franchise organization and his company culture. For any multi-unit franchisee or anyone who wants to become a multi-unit franchisee, this is a great episode to listen to. Enjoy.
The Wolf of Franchises is the CEO of Wolfpack Franchising, as well as a creator at Workweek Media. All opinions expressed by the Wolf and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Wolfpack Franchising or Workweek. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. The Wolf, Workweek, and Wolfpack Franchising may maintain positions in the franchises discussed on this podcast.
I'd love to learn, your military career seems like that was the start of things. I know you graduated West Point. How long were you involved in the military before? I think you went on to Lenscrafters, or maybe you got an MBA, but we can take it in chunks. So I'd love for you to start with maybe just, what was your military career?
So I graduated from West Point in 1986 and was branched Army Aviation, went to flight school down in Fort Rucker, Alabama, and graduated flight school in 87. And then was assigned my first duty station in Korea. And I was in the Army a total of about 6.5 years, stationed Fort Rucker, obviously, Korea, Fort Lewis, Washington was my last duty station where ETS had left the service. And from there, I got my MBA from Harvard. So I like to say I went right out of the cockpit into the classroom and finished HBS in 1995, newly minted MBA. And from there, I went to work for McKinsey, which is a strategy consulting firm, and was there for 3 years. And then went into gaming of all industries. One of my professors from Harvard Business School had left Harvard and was appointed the president of Harrah Entertainment, a guy by the name of Gary Loveman. And so Gary was recruiting, some of his MBA consulting background kids to come into the gaming industry. The gaming industry had kind of transitioned from, the old stereotypes that you hear about in the gaming industry. They were bringing in more professional managers, obviously, given the influx of large corporations running these, these billion-dollar gaming empires. And so I was with Harrah Entertainment for almost 7 years and left Harrah's and got into retail. And so have been into retail essentially the last 10 to 15 years, various stops. Started in retail at Brown Shoe. And then from Brown Shoe, Lord & Taylor went into what I would consider my first foray into optics, and started at Lenscrafters in 2011 as senior vice president of store operations, and was there for 3.5 years. And we started West Point Optical Group in 2014. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Amazing. Okay, that's really helpful context for myself and the audience, honestly, to hear it directly from you. When you think about your time at what was it, the Harrah?
Harrah Entertainment, yes.
Yeah.
Harrah's.
Was that kind of a startup-y vibe, or is that very much a corporate job that you're entering into? And, what was your experience like there and transitioning eventually out of that into?
Yeah, that's a very much an established corporation, big business. Harrah Entertainment at that time, I went to work on the Strip, the Harrah's casino right there on the Strip. Now, this was, 98, 98, 99, 2000 timeframe. And so wasn't what you see it as today, but it was a very well-established hotel, casino entertainment company. And so it was not startup at all. It was, my first, what I would consider true leadership position, obviously outside of the military. And so going from consulting where you're kind of sit in the press box, calling in plays down to the men and women that are kind of on the field, if you will, executing the plays. And so my kind of temperament and personality, I want to be on the field. The press box is a great perspective, but just how I'm built and wired, I want to be on the field. If I score a touchdown, I want the applause. If I drop the pass, I'm cool with the boos. And so that was more to my liking. And I was fortunate that Harrah's, had invested in me early on with some significant leadership positions. And again, just drawing upon my, experiences in sports, the military, leadership was kind of one of my strong suits. And you combine that with what I learned my MBA and working at McKinsey, it was a great combination for me.
Amazing. And did that experience translate, obviously management and leadership experience can translate to a degree, but going from gaming to say Lenscrafters eventually, right? In the optical field, how did that form? Just because, there's not really at least on the surface, not a natural connection to the industry.
It's really about people. One of my mentors who I worked with, doing my many stops in various retailers, limited brands, a guy by the name of Mark Weichel. We worked together when I was at Limited Brands, working in a corporate store operations department. Mark was running Victoria's Secret at the time. And so we became kind of friends, and he mentored me, helping me transition into retail. And from there, we stayed in touch. And Mark went to Lenscrafters as the president of Lenscrafters. And they were looking for someone to head up stores and store operations. And, again, when you think about operating in a large hotel casino, there are literally thousands of employees. And so significant leadership challenges, now albeit they're under one roof, if you will. A lot of the leadership lessons that I learned in gaming are very transferable to retail. You keep score every day in gaming as well as retail by, what the red cash register sales are. And at the end of the day, it's really, and I hate to kind of distill it down to its barest elements, but it's really about people and leadership, motivating, inspiring a team of people to accomplish, stated goals and objectives. And that's, the essential elements of leadership to me. And I like the fast pace of gaming, and retail is a very similarly fast-paced environment. Again, you keep score every day. Each day that starts is a new day. If you got your butt kicked yesterday, you get a chance to, hand out some butt weapons on the following day. So for me, it was kind of a natural transition into retail. And then because of my relationship with Mark, I got my foot in the door at Lenscrafters, heading up stores and operations.
Amazing. I love how that kind of relationship led to a bigger opportunity for you. And now I'm seeing too, given your role at Lenscrafters, I can only imagine it really prepared you for what you're now doing at Pearle Vision. So do you want to maybe talk us through, working for Lenscrafters and, how'd you even discover Pearle Vision while working at that job?
Pearle Vision is a sister company of Lenscrafters. They're both owned at the time by Luxottica. And so Luxottica, the North American division, owned Lenscrafters, Sunglass Hut, Target Optical, Sears Optical, and Pearle Vision. And at Lenscrafters, which is kind of the crown jewel of that portfolio, had an opportunity to meet a lot of other professionals in some of the other divisions, and struck up a friendship with the guy that headed up Pearle, as well as the head of development at Pearle. And they started talking about these opportunities that they were looking for. They were classifying as super franchisees. I was intrigued, but not necessarily that interested. Having gone to West Point, Harvard, McKinsey. I thought my career path was going to be CEO of a Fortune 500 company, if you will. That was kind of
Yeah.
the path that I was on. Even though my parents were both entrepreneurs in South Georgia, I just thought, I invested this time and energy on this path, and I'm going to see it through to that corner office, I should say, with the CEO title, and it did not work out that way. I was passed over for a promotional opportunity at Lenscrafters, and it kind of knocked me on my backside a little bit, and made a decision that I was going to do something entrepreneurial. I talked about it with my wife, and at that time, the Pearle opportunity was still on the table. So I reached out to 10 or 11 of my West Point football teammates and classmates, and we raised about $2 million and started West Point Optical at the time, and approached Pearle about buying 10 locations in Ohio, 10 corporate locations that they were converting to franchise locations. And so we closed on our first 10 stores in June of 2014. And here we are almost 10 years later, celebrating our 10th anniversary with 88 locations now in 14 states.
That's incredible. Wow. A lot to cover there. What geographically, do you live in Ohio?
Yeah, we are in Mason, Ohio. When I took the job with Lenscrafters, Luxottica Retail North America is headquartered in Mason, Ohio, which is about 40 miles north of downtown Cincinnati, on 71 heading up to Columbus, Ohio. And so we, settled into Mason, great school systems. My youngest son wasn't even born yet from that standpoint, but we were thinking about, the opportunity to do some fun and cool things. And that's what led us to, deciding that Mason was a great place to raise our family. And so that was how I ended up in Mason, Ohio.
Amazing. And do you think did that play into, I'm sure it was nice to be local to the stores that you were looking to acquire, but would that have been a factor? Or would you have, let's say you were acquiring your first location as a franchise owner, somewhere where you need to jump on a flight, would that have been a deal breaker, or were you fine?
I don't necessarily know if it would have been a deal breaker. I've been traveling literally all of my professional career. In the military, obviously, traveled all over the world. So didn't have an aversion to travel, but obviously starting an entrepreneurial venture, the ability to hop in a car and be at any one of those stores at the most in 3 hours was a definite strong advantage, and especially given weekends, the importance of weekends, specifically Saturdays in retail optical, having the ability again, if the worst thing happened, to hop in a car and be there within 3 hours. It was certainly led us to kind of make that decision. And we may have made a different decision if we would have had to go to Texas or if we would have had to relocate. But given starting your own business, especially in a franchise or any own entrepreneurial endeavor, you're investing so much of your time, energy, and anything you can do to remove complexity out of the equation. I would highly recommend, and travel adds a degree of complexity that again, starting with 10 units, it just made sense for us. We didn't have to move, and Ohio was, we had stores there in Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, and so it was a no-brainer for us.
Nice, yeah. And when you connected with your friends from West Point to raise the money, was there any other capital required, or maybe was there debt included with a bank for seller financing, even from the franchise?
Yep. Yeah, there was a bank loan. We did an SBA with Bank of America, a West Point graduate, not my classmate, but we were there around the same time, was pretty high up in Bank of America, and he kind of walked us through the SBA process. and we were able to secure an SBA loan combined with the money that we raised. And that's how we financed the acquisition.
Okay. Very cool. Because I'm going to imagine, right, that given your experience at Lenscrafter, that you felt pretty comfortable with
Yeah.
running retail stores already. But what did that element of, all of a sudden it's your capital versus massive holding company like Luxottica kind of paying your salary, and I'm sure, there's no fear of, that's coming in all the time. What did this just new role as, you as the CEO, and were your friends more passive investors, or were they also helping out with ops?
They were all passive investors. I mean, these are guys that met me when I was 18 and an afro out to here. A lot of them were football teammates of mine. And so they knew me at my core. And there was, having gone through the shared experience of West Point and the friendships that institution just breeds in all of its graduates, it made it very easy to go and to approach them, because there was an element of trust that was already there, and bonds that were pretty strong from that standpoint. And so it wasn't a lot of kind of trust this guy. It was really about the opportunity, and they knew who they were investing in and my work ethic. And so it was really about the opportunity. And once we put together a business plan, and all of them said yes, it was pretty much for us at that point pretty straightforward. We were going to, at that point, we were thinking, man, if we could grow this thing to like 20, 25 units, we'll get a nice return, and life will be great from that standpoint. I don't think, if I'm honest with you, that we ever envisioned, getting to 100 or 125 units at the start. I thought we were pretty aggressive. We were thinking about 25. But as we got into it and we realized the true breadth and scope of the opportunity, it just made sense for us to continue to grow, and we have. And it's been one heck of a journey. We didn't necessarily have a huge learning curve on optical, because I had just spent 3.5 years at Lenscrafters, so I knew the optical industry relatively well. But when it's your friend's money, I think it adds an element of pressure that is very different than what I would consider the arm's length transaction of getting money from PE or venture capital. It's because it's still arm's length, whereas with men and women that you've known for a considerable amount of time, stepping in and being entrusted with their hard-earned capital, it added an element of pressure that I needed from that standpoint, because I didn't want to let these people down, because I have known them practically all my life at that time.
Yeah, I could imagine, right? There's almost it's like trying to ward off maybe a sense of guilt if things were to go wrong. So that's it's a very intense motivator.
Reunions would have been a little awkward, right? So going back to the Army Navy game, I'd have been in disguise, right? And I didn't want to have to walk in with my tail tucked between my legs. So, but it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can tell. I'm sure it's they're probably excited to hear updates from you all the time. Well, when you think about that first 10 in the transaction, how long was it before you kind of felt comfortable with that and we're like, all right, let's go look for more deals? And was that second deal, I guess whatever that second expansion beyond 10 was it also an acquisition of existing stores, or did you build your own?
No, very early on, we were very fortunate that at the time, Pearle's strategy was to sell corporate assets and convert them to franchise locations. And so we were able to work closely with the franchisor to provide us with the opportunity to acquire, incremental stores. We bought a big block in Michigan and Michigan and Indiana. Then we bought a big block of Pennsylvania stores from a franchisor that ran into some legal trouble. And so the majority of our acquisitions have been corporate locations that we've converted to Pearles. And then we supplemented those acquisitions with, independent operators that were not necessarily Pearle franchises that we've converted to Pearle franchises. We call them independents. And then we were able to also acquire additional Pearle licensed operators that were looking to exit the franchise. And so we were able to acquire units in that regard as well. And we have also opened 11 de novo or greenfield locations, predominantly in Phoenix, Arizona area from that standpoint. So for us, our preference is obviously to buy existing franchises that are well established, have a patient and customer base. The curve is less steep in those situations where you're walking into an established business versus the other end of the spectrum is de novo locations that you're starting from scratch, and all of the learning curve associated with establishing a patient base and a customer base. And so again, our preference has always been existing Pearle franchisees that are looking to exit the business, followed closely by independents that were able to convert to Pearle franchise locations. And then the last priority would be de novo locations that we're building from scratch and ground up.
Yep. Yeah, no, most operators I speak to prefer the acquisition route, kind of as you said, right? Existing customer base, and just you could skip some of the maybe early headaches that can happen. So,
absolutely,
yeah. Was there anything that you didn't expect going from, again, your role at Lenscrafter to being the CEO of your Pearle Vision group here, or did your role effectively, were you responsible for everything from looking at the rent price of like a Lenscraft location to, or was there things in the brick and mortar world that once again, you're fully responsible for the capital and all that, was there some surprises?
I don't necessarily know if there were any surprises, but going from kind of a senior leadership position within a large corporation to a franchise business that when we were incredibly lean, it was literally me and 10 store general managers. And so we were, as a group, and me specifically, we were responsible for everything from negotiating lease deals to cleaning the bathrooms. I mean, this was everything that we did kind of as a group. And so having been in a large corporation, understanding how the bureaucracy works, one of the things that we wanted to avoid at all costs was, recreating a bureaucratic environment in our franchise business. So we've always been very flat and lean, even to this day. I would consider us a very lean organization. We have a pretty strong finance and accounting function. We got a head of HR, who's also my wife from that standpoint. So again, we're kind of keeping it in the family a little bit from that standpoint. And then we've got regional directors. We've got a chief medical officer again, but these are all folks that are working in the business. The only associates that, again, that are our corporate office that aren't in the business day to day are finance and accounting team. And I would classify HR as being at a corporate office, but Laura Lee, that's my wife who heads up HR, is actively involved in what's happening in the stores. She probably knows more about the stores and the associates than I do from that standpoint, because that's her strong suit. What I would consider, the touchy-feely side. I'm more of a type A, ready, fire, aim, and so the two of us make a pretty good combination there from that standpoint. But she's also tough as nails from that standpoint. So I think, again, when you combine the two of us working, as a husband and wife, and also executives in the company with the team that we've built around us, who are all passionate men and women that care greatly about what they do. It's been a pretty good run for us. We've been incredibly blessed with the men and women that we surrounded ourselves with, and the job that they've done in helping us build the company from where we started back in 2014 to where we are now. And obviously, the investor group that's helped us and been there through thick and thin has also been a huge part of our success.
Amazing. And speaking of, clearly you have a big organization. So, I guess as you've scaled, right, do you have a framework for how to think about like each deal? Meaning, right, a lot of folks who listen to this podcast, they're probably earlier in their journey. So that, they probably look at someone like you and say, okay, started with 10, now at 86, 87, 88. Mentally, right? Like, how do you think about actually like, okay, this is when it makes sense to make a deal? There's so many levers you can pull. You can raise more money, you can raise more debt. And, you don't want to have too much debt payments relative to what you have in your bank account. So yeah, just do you have any general like frameworks for that process and how you look at it, especially given I would imagine you did some of this work in your early days at McKinsey.
Yeah, acquisition and growth are really market dependent. When we were very fortunate, when we were in aggressive growth mode, interest rates were very low. This was pre-pandemic. So there's, the money was plentiful. We were able to secure financing, debt financing, a couple of capital raises here and there. So it wasn't as challenging as it is in today's environment, right, where interest rates have skyrocketed. Banks have tightened some of their lending criteria, and it's just a completely different environment. We were fortunate to execute recapitalization right before COVID hit, where we were able to bring in a PE firm, low water capital partners that bought 35% equity position in our company. So, we've had a minority partner, but a strong partner that's been helping us negotiate, some of the financing associated with acquisition and growth, because that's kind of what low water skill set they bring to the partnership is strong financial acumen, understanding deal flow, and obviously we bring the operational experience. And so it's a great partnership in that regard. But for us, again, going back to when we were aggressive growth mode, for us, it was just find a good business that it was in close proximity where we have an existing store, so we can leverage economies of scale. We can leverage, most importantly, our leadership and our people. Because for us, it didn't make a lot of sense, to buy a store in South Dakota. No offense to South Dakota, when it was over a 3-hour flight from any of our closer locations, right? So we were at some strategy from the standpoint that we were looking to have geographic clusters where we can leverage our people first and foremost, our field leadership team and oversight. And again, money was plentiful at the time, and so I can't imagine the difficulty associated with trying to grow in today's environment. Although we are seeing, some light at the end of the tunnel, that hopefully interest rates will continue to come down. Deal multiples are improving, so it's creating an environment, I think, within the next 12 to 18 months where we'll be able to start aggressively growing again. But we're doing kind of what we call onesies and twosies deals right now, where we're have a definite set of criteria. We're looking for stores that have been in business for X number of years, stores that have a profit margin of X, and a great leadership team. In our business, they have a doctor that's well established, so we're not having to go out and recruit and try to find an OD, because the doctors, our optometrists, play such a critical role in our business model. And so, we have that checklist that we go through when we're evaluating deals. And obviously, the most important thing is securing the financing for those deals. So if the stores hurdle with regard to our checklist, our operational checklist, our talent checklist, our doctor checklist, then the financing is tough, but relatively easy to do given low water, our financial partners, and relationships we have with our bank partners, Bank of Montreal.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah. It's always interesting to hear kind of the buy box that multi-unit operators like yourself kind of have for expansion. So super helpful to get your perspective on that. And, I want to ask you about leadership, because just tallying it up in my head throughout the conversation, West Point graduate, West Point football player, Harvard MBA, military career as I think a Black Hawk pilot you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
Basically, by far the biggest badass I've ever had on this show. So, but when you step into a leadership role as a franchise owner, obviously it's a much different. I was a Division I soccer player myself, so not football and definitely not the Army, but it's a different vibe, I guess. In an office versus a sports field, where maybe you can be a bit more rah rah in the locker room, which that just would seem weird in a corporate setting. So, yeah, how do you approach this? Approach leadership in general, though, as far as unifying, your workforce, probably managing their happiness. What are the most important things that you're looking to stay on top of as a leader?
It's a good question. Actually, a great question. We have maybe foolishly tried to combine elements of competitive athletics and business. It's our company, so we figure we can set the rules, and it's kind of morphed into what we describe as collaborative competitiveness, meaning we force rank everything that we have in our company 1 through 88 now. So every store knows where they stand in our key performance indicators since we force rank everything. We don't consider having winners and losers in our organization, but since it is collaborative competitiveness, there's going to be a first winner, a second winner, a third winner, a fourth winner, but you know where you stand. I think a lot of those elements from sports, whether it be soccer or football, are there, and that competitiveness is kind of what we look for in attributes in men and women that we hire into our organization. They have to want to compete, and to me, business in one of its base levels is about competition. You're either competing against yourself, or you're competing against your competition across the street, and you got to want to win. And we don't make any excuses for that. You can have that collaborative competitiveness where everybody gets across the finish line, combined with the elements from my military career that no one, no store or individual left behind, which is something that is instilled in us as military leaders. You never leave anybody on the battlefield for these type of things. So we just have dabbled at taking little things that have kind of appealed or resonated with us when it comes to competitive athletics, what I learned in business and then the military, and combined it into kind of our approach. And again, we coined a phrase, just collaborative competitiveness. It's probably exists in some business book, and I may have read it at some point, but so I don't want to take credit for coining that phrase, but it's just really defines who we are. We have a president's club. Each year we take our top 25 associates across our key employee categories. This year we went to the Hard Rock in Cabo, and we force rank all through the year, so everybody knows where they stand. Everybody's fighting, to get on that trip. We've got a March Madness tournament going on right now. We're down to our Elite Eight, so we got stores competing. 64 stores make the field, and each week, they're competing against each other. Man, I love that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
again, if I'm the guy that founded the company, and I'm the guy that has been given the autonomy to make those decisions, we're going to create elements of what I enjoy, because I got to be true to myself if I'm going to be true to the business, and with what's been placed in my charge, with our 400 plus employees. Something that my wife and I take very, very seriously, so does our board of managers. We're creating, livelihoods for people. They're putting their kids through, college based upon what they're earning and their ability to, to have, employment with us. So it's something we take very seriously. But again, it just boils down to, again, that collaborative competitiveness. We're going to compete. We want to win. We're going to do it the right way. We're not going to cut any corners. But man, we're strapping it up every day, and trying to win, and trying to beat your brains out if we have to. Again, in a competitive
Yeah.
vernacular, not literally,
Yeah.
but again, we get after it, and that's what's fun to us. That's what we enjoy. It's kind of our culture.
I like it. I love the term, that collaborative competitiveness. And, I think I'd imagine there's a good number of owners and operators who listen to this who, uh, at least somewhat align. They would love employees who are kind of ready to get competitive and put in the work. How do you filter for someone like that, though, through your recruitment and through your interviewing process? Are you got some personality tests, or do you guys have a magic list of questions?
Either Laura Lee, my wife, or I are involved in every hiring decision of a store manager and above. It's in our ODs as well. And the 6 regional directors that oversee our field operations, they kind of know what we're looking for in the talent that we hire. We don't spend money on, and again, no disrespect or not trying to make light of a lot of the profiles testing that is out there. We always look to put every dollar that we can into investments that are going to have to see a return that is material that we can quantify. And we just have been fortunate with we call it the Laura Lee radar, where she has an innate ability just to find those people that are a good fit. Now we don't bat 1,000, nobody does,
Yeah.
but there's always going to be an opportunity for us to rely on kind of her innate ability to identify men and women that are going to give a damn, and then combine that with the culture that we built. That's how we've been successful. But again, we're gonna. Now I know I read this somewhere. Be quick to fire and slow to hire.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we do whenever we have the opportunity. Now, there's going to be necessity, and any operator is going to tell you sometimes you just need someone there. The store can't be dark. And sometimes you do make compromises, but all things being equal, somebody tells you, Maya Angelou, when people show you who they are, believe them. Early on if you've made a hiring mistake. Don't let that fester. Be quick to rid your organization of men and women that are culture terrorists, are going to steal the joy from those men and women that truly care. And then again, if you're protective of your culture, again, all things being equal, cultivate, build relationships with people that you feel can make your organization better, and then bring them into the to the fold when the opportunity presents itself.
That's awesome. No, I love it. And, to add to it too, Bill, right? How do you balance, kind of being true to yourself, right? And wanting to be a part of an organization that is competitive. And I'm making an assumption here, but I'd imagine you can tolerate and you probably enjoy a more competitive environment than most people. So like, how do you know when, all right, we'll draw the line here, but before maybe it becomes intimidating or anything like that to other people? How do you know to balance your personality, I guess? Whereas most, some folks, maybe it's not for them, but they're still a good employee.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with that, to be honest with you. I only know one way, and I wish I was a more evolved leader from that standpoint. But I think I trust those that know me well, and again, the fact that our board of managers, we got a couple of guys that are on that board of managers that have known me going back to 1986. They were one guy specifically, Rick Doubt, was a senior or first D when I was a plebe. And I was fortunate to play varsity as a plebe, and Rick would look out for me, keep the other upperclassmen from yelling at me when we were down in formation. And he's been doing that as a member of our board of managers. And again, he has that unique perspective of knowing me as a kid, literally. And so knowing what it kind of inspires me, and being able to give me that counsel because of the length and depth of our relationship has been pretty empowering as a leader, knowing that you've got folks that are going to give you some honest, unfiltered feedback because of the relationship is there, and that's been and absolutely critical in our growth and maturation of the organization. But I'm an acquired taste because I am hard charging, full of piss and vinegar. And Laura Lee has been able to, again, she's our head of HR. She's been able to balance me out, and she's unafraid to get in my face and go toe to toe with me. And that's been helpful as well. But we want people in our organization, obviously, that fit our culture. And not everybody's going to be a type A, rah guy like I am, and that's okay. You need that diversity, but they have to have some element of wanting to compete and win because we talk about it so much as an organization. But they don't have to be, to the far right like I am, right, or the far left. The moderation is important in our business. But again, there has to be that common thread of wanting to compete and win. But varying levels of intensity are okay.
Definitely. Yeah. And even honestly, as you explained kind of your thought process behind that, I was just thinking that, it's probably a very, very big positive that maybe you haven't figured out how to, as you said it, quote unquote, evolve. Cause I'd imagine it's a great filtration mechanism, just if people do gravitate towards the competitiveness you're looking to build, they're going to love it. And if they're not, you'll probably know pretty damn quick. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I just imagine by the store growth and the success you've had that it sounds like it's working. So yeah.
We think it is. And again, we learn something new every day, right? We've got regional directors of operation, and these are the men and women that, are really day to day in stores literally every day. And Laura Lee and I, as well as our board, we take what they share with us very much, at face value, and understanding that, they're talking to our associates every day. I spend a lot of time in stores, but I'm not in stores every day, and they are. So there are eyes and ears, and we take their feedback. We value their feedback, and it helps us make decisions each and every day as we try to push this organization forward.
Phenomenal. Yeah, Bill, this has been super, super helpful to kind of learn your story, and I know the audience is going to find value in it. I think you said before you're not a big social media guy, so maybe. But is there anywhere online? Do you have do you have a website for your stores or anything where people can follow along? Or
Well, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I have done a good job of being active on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
And we have internal group me where I am, literally every day to our organization, sending out messages, posting results from our contest from that standpoint. But no, if again, I'm pretty much an open book on LinkedIn. Always willing to give advice if people have questions or want more information. Anything that I have and I've learned, obviously, others help me out, and I think it's so critically important that all entrepreneurs, regardless of the degree of success, are willing to to be there and to help others that have these aspirations, because it is probably the most rewarding journey that I could have embarked upon. And I wish I could tell you again it was by design, but had I not gotten passed over for a promotion, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. So I think the big man upstairs knew what was my right path, even if I didn't. And sometimes it takes a humbling experience to reveal your true course. And so they're only there are no failures in life. From my perspective, just learning opportunities. They're all, my favorite, Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone, quite, that quote from, forget which Rocky movie it was, but it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you get hit, and keep moving forward. And our journey at Pearle has been a true partnership with our franchisor. And I think you asked earlier, what lesson that I learned that has been probably the most beneficial that I didn't expect. And when I started early on, I felt it was us against them, us being the franchisee versus the franchisor. And as I have grown and evolved a little bit, I have learned that it is a true partnership. And if the franchisor has to be invested in your success as a franchisee, and vice versa, and the two of you can learn to work together collaboratively, that's a win-win, because you can't fight the machine. And I learned some of the hard lessons trying to feel it was us against them, and it's not that at all, especially with the leadership team at Pearle that was there doing most of our growth. Alex Wilkes and Kathleen Steele, and they left now, but the new leadership team at Pearle now has been invaluable. Gunjan has been great, Carrie DePasquale. And so those of you that are interested in Pearle Vision, I would highly encourage you to give this a long, hard look, because I think it's a great opportunity for those that are interested in franchising.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the more differentiated concepts out there. There's not dozens and dozens of them like you'll see in fast food or fitness and other industries. So this is really awesome to hear directly from you, Bill. So folks, we'll list his LinkedIn profile in the show notes. So if you want to give him a follow and watch along his journey, as I'm sure he goes well beyond 100 units. So thanks again, Bill. It was fun having you on, and we'll talk soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for listening to Franchise Empires. We're coming to you soon with actionable insights to take the next step on your franchise journey. So make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen.